I think it's especially meaningful this year that even though these awards are not connected, we have a core similarity that goes to the heart of my own family's history as well as the history of this country, and that is the role of immigration and that immigrants have played. But before I speak about the next winners, I want to recognize my cousin here, Stephen Smith, who has been a dedicated board member of the Kennedy Library and works here at Harvard. I don't know if there's anybody else here from my family. Last year there were some cousins or second cousins, but maybe they're in New Hampshire this year. I don't know what they're doing. When we began this award, it was 15 or 16 years ago, and we wanted to honor young people, the next generation of leaders. And we realized that the mission of the Institute of Politics is to inspire leaders to seek careers in public service. And what we find often is that people feel like they don't want to do politics, but they want to serve in their communities, and they want to make a difference, and they want to change our society. And often people find the way to do that is not in government, but it is in work in nonprofits and social action, community-based organizations. And so we decided to give 2 awards, one to an elected official under the age of 40, and one to an unelected official who was making change in our country as well. And so this year, the winners of the unelected category are unfortunately have become known to us as the Christinas, but actually they are the founders of Freedom for Immigrants, an organization that they started 15 years ago, almost, and they, in California. And I think it works on behalf of immigrants to humanize and prevent them from being in detention. They have had an extraordinary success. They were on the front lines of this fight long before it hit the headlines and hit the TV screens. And the progress that they have made by pushing for change from outside of government is truly extraordinary. They created a hotline for immigrants in detention to call in 2013 so that they would not be so isolated, but could stay in touch with the outside world, their families and lawyers. They started the first visitation program in California. They now run 43 programs around the country, meaning in 43 prisons. They helped pass the Dignity Not Detention Act in California, which strengthens the rules for detention facilities. They were the first to put a moratorium on the expansion of detention and to freeze the growth of for-profit prisons and pave the way for a bill to phase out private prisons in California, which was signed into law last year. That is a model for our nation, and the fact that they got it done is something that we can all build upon. There are now, at one time there were 50,000 people in immigration detention in the United States with no access to an attorney, phone call, or speedy trial, and 2/3 of them are in private for-profit prisons. So the mission of Freedom for Immigrants is to abolish that kind of system, to abolish immigration detention and end the isolation of people suffering. You will hear some extraordinary facts about what people face who come to this country fleeing violence and conflict in their own countries, I hope, because I was just hearing some of them. There are 4,500 volunteers weekly monitoring U.S. detention centers now. And the hotline gets 14,000 calls a month. It's the largest in the United States. So this is an organization that has impact well beyond even California, although in California it's truly groundbreaking. And I know that in my own family, the history of the immigrant experience, which is now many generations removed, was something that my own grandmother felt strongly in her own life. It's hard to remember that here in Boston, the Irish were discriminated against, and it was something that she herself had experienced. And so even though it's not part of my experience, and all of us here are lucky enough to be here, and some of us are even lucky enough to have turned it down. But I think that it's something that we are now seeing firsthand, the importance of renewing our values and treating people with dignity and respect. And this is a crisis situation, and I hope that everybody here will spend some time thinking about it and thinking about our own heritage. My father served on the immigration subcommittee. He wrote a book called The Nation of Immigrants. It was so central to our family's experience. And my Uncle Teddy also chaired that subcommittee almost throughout his entire time in Congress. So both of them worked hard to be able to bring more immigrants to this country and celebrate the contributions that they make. So it's an honor for me personally to welcome you here today and to be inspired by your work, and I hope that I can, and we all can, continue to help this cause. So I want to present you with the New Frontier Award to Christina Mansfield and Christina Fialho and Freedom for Immigrants.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Kennedy. We are so honored to accept this award. This award is deeply meaningful for me and my family. When President Kennedy was senator of this state, he authored a bill that brought my great-grandfather to the United States. Then my grandparents followed along with my dad. I wouldn't even be here if the United States hadn't welcomed my family in a time of crisis. But not all families are treated equally. Right now, as we speak, there are over 50,000 people held in county jails and for-profit prisons as part of the U.S. immigration detention system. Immigration detention is rife with abuse, such as medical neglect that has led to death and sexual assault by guards perpetrated with our tax dollars. But this wasn't always the case. Prior to the 1980s, there were only about 30 people held in immigration detention on any given day. Then, 2 private prison corporations formed, and they began lobbying for laws to expand immigrant incarceration. Now, 70% of people in immigration detention are caged in private prisons, profiting from their abuse. But it doesn't have to be this way. Many of us in this room are old enough to have lived in a country where people were not systematically imprisoned for crossing a border. We can end this system, and we are so grateful to the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation for uplifting our work at this time.
When Christina and I started doing this work about a decade ago, it was a totally different political environment. And when people asked us what we did for a living, we were often met with blank stares, and no one knew that we had an immigration detention system. And today, this has changed. The issue is finally front and center where it belongs as one of the most pressing social justice issues of our time. And so with this recognition of this award comes a responsibility for all of us to act boldly and to completely reimagine how we treat immigrants in this country. I want to give a lot of thanks. I want to just say that we're just one small organization in a sea of people trying to make this change. And many of them are directly impacted by this issue in a way that we aren't. And I want to thank our families who are here tonight. You've made us who we are. We're so grateful to you. I want to especially thank my partner, Nick Castro, who helped us to build this organization in the very early years. Thank you, Nick. I want to thank our staff who work really tirelessly every single day and make a lot of personal sacrifices because it's difficult to withstand the weight of the suffering that we have to witness on a daily basis. And we want to thank our board and our leadership council, our donors, our supporters who have helped us build this resistance. And we want to thank all the people we've had the honor of working with in immigration detention. We stand with you, and we're going to bring an end to this cruel and unnecessary system together. And a tremendous thanks to the JFK Library Foundation for recognizing this issue, for recognizing our contributions, and helping us pave the way toward abolition, our new frontier. Thank you very much.